So it's not just the blood sugar elevation, it's also the chronic inflammation that carbohydrates create that is one of the beneficial effects of not eating carbs or of a ketogenic diet. Next slide, please. So what is keto? What are ketones? You know, you don't have to know any of this stuff, but many of you are here to learn these details. So ketones are basically body fuel or energy used in places instead of sugar or glucose. So we've always been running on fat in the background as well, but this is a change of the glucose utilization to ketone utilization. And so the reduction in dietary carbohydrate signals the liver to convert fat into ketones. And fat can be from the food or the body's fat. And if you're trying to lose weight, you want the fat. If you're trying to lose fat weight, then you want the fat or your ketones to come from your body, not from the food or drinks that you have. So it's a difference in the fire hose of information on keto diets. If you're trying to lose weight, you don't want to add in excessive amounts of fat or oils or butter or things like or cheese or mayonnaise. So those have limits on them if you're trying to lose fat weight off your body. In nutritional ketosis, there is no ketoacidosis, big concern among the medical field, and for me years ago. Remember, for me, my concerns were about 20 years ago when those patients came to me. I knew that cholesterol would go up, and the one patient said to me in the VA hospital, well, why don't you check it? And I thought, okay. So I wasn't so overtrained. What I hear now is, well, my doctor wouldn't even check it because he knew it would be bad, right? Well, actually, in 2 in a row, these patients, their cholesterol was better, even though they were eating more fat. So anyway, and the concern about ketoacidosis for me is, there is none as long as you have insulin in your body or you're injecting insulin as a type 1. Ketones that aren't used are excreted by the kidneys, so you're not going to get extra accumulation of ketones. It's safe and desirable. In fact, the brain prefers ketones over glucose. If you put the different tissues in petri dishes and give ketones, glucose, and fatty acids, most tissues prefer the ketones over the glucose. Even the heart does. And babies are born in a state of ketosis. So how could that be bad? Okay, I guess they might be crying too, but if you flip everything upside down, actually, so ketones are really designed to be the primary fuel, not glucose. So if you eat real foods that don't have much processing and all that, and have you ever seen a pasta tree? It's a processed food. The language should be that glucose is the alternative fuel, not ketones. So as we see the shift in language, I still see people saying it's ketones are alternative fuel. No, I think it's a primary one with fatty acids, with fat that you eat. Next slide. Are all low-carb diets keto? No. Does everyone have to do a keto diet? No, but maybe if they want to live longer. So it's fascinating. 20 years ago, everyone said that you would necessarily die. I mean, almost like being on the edge of a cliff if you did this kind of diet. I know that's not true. And then there were doctors who had followed people for a long time who were well-intentioned doctors, and I knew that wasn't true. But now that you can actually study keto diets, there are beneficial effects that we never really thought were possible. So I hold out that maybe we all should be eating ketone-based diets, but I don't know for sure yet. And the ketone threshold, which now we used to just check urine, but now we have blood and breath ketones, and the problem there is that it's a different molecule that's being checked. And though they generally hang together, we've done a few studies where we've had breath, blood, and urine checked at the same time, and they generally go together. Again, I'm an MD, not a PhD, so I'm not going to quibble about the really small differences between them, but I still find any of these ketone measurements useful. If you get under 50 carbs a day, some people will be in ketosis, not everyone. The younger you are, the more active you are, the less postmenopausal you are, the more likely you'll be in ketosis at 50 grams. But if you get under 20 total grams, not net, this is total, just about everyone will be in ketosis. There's actually a big difference between 50 grams, 40 grams, 30 grams, and 20 grams. It may seem like, like really low to you, all of it, but actually there's a difference between those different levels. I was just at a conference, the Metabolic Health Summit is an annual conference where research is being presented about nutritional ketosis, and asked Mark Sisson and Rob Wolf, who do the paleo kind of teaching, and Rob talks about evolutionary perspective and all that, and I said, well, if I've helped someone lose 200 pounds by having them not eat carbs, do I have to have them eat carbs again? Everything looks fine, everything's better, and their position was, yes, most people should, and I said, well, where's the science behind that? And then, well, evolutionary, looking back, and all that, and then I went, well, couldn't we do better in the future, maybe, than just looking back? If Orville, in North Carolina, we have the Wright brothers, as first in flight, unless you're from Ohio. I wouldn't say that. But if the Wright brothers had done a study looking at all of the studies done on whether humans should fly, and evolutionarily should humans fly, they would have concluded no. End of story, go home. They went to the North Carolina coast and watched the birds fly and figured out that the wing had to have a little ability to move. Anyway, long story. I think we can actually do better than looking back at what people have done, although looking back is a great start, which means no Fruit Loops, no Captain Crunch, no Coca-Cola, things like that. Next slide. So going keto is simple, and I'll go through a simple system that we've developed and borrowed that are heavily influenced by the doctors who used this in the 1900s, Dr. Atkins, Dr. Eads, Dr. Bernstein, Dr. Rosedale, and I'll go over this afternoon. Next slide. You do have to relearn what you've been taught. You don't have to look at calories. It's mostly irrelevant, because how the calories act inside the body is different than how the calories are measured outside the body. You don't have to look at or be concerned about total unsaturated fats, because we know now those are great sources of energy. And then the main thing to look at is the carbohydrates. For total carbohydrate counting, you don't even have to subtract anything. You just look at the number that comes after the words total carbohydrate or total carb on the bottle if they truncate the word. Someone came back to me and said, I couldn't find total carbohydrate on the bottle. I said, well, it says total carb. Oh, that means carbohydrate. It was reasonable. Now, I don't understand cars very well. If the mechanic really wants to tell me all about how the car, this was broken and the gasket and the turbo, this and that, look, just fix it, okay? So I understand that if you don't understand the big picture view and you're kind of stressed out about it, those little things can trip you up. So just look at, oh yeah, it does say total carbs on this one too. And that's total carbohydrates. Next. Oh, well that gets me to the person who came back just all happy that she was doing the diet. And I saw on there bread, pasta, rice, and she said, I'm doing the no carb diet. And I said, really? Yeah, no carbonation.
Oh my goodness.
Well, now in my clinic, and I do an hour-long class, and I do bore people. Some people sleep. And, but the point being that you give teaching, and a lot of information is given, and that's why most coaches, most programs that are successful have follow-up to make sure that you're doing it right, and that those kinds of simple things are fixed really quickly. Next slide, please. So do calories matter? Yes, they do. However, You don't have to count them because for just about everyone, a keto diet is you consume less calories than before. And what we say is that it normalizes what your body really needs because you take away the extraneous carbohydrate cravings and carbs. Does anyone think carbs make you hungry? Yeah, there's no evidence for that. No peer-reviewed publication with that in the title. It's almost come to that if I can't reference something that has it in the title. Of course, I was taught that you don't put the answer to your paper in the title. So it would be the relationship of eating carbohydrates and hunger would be the title of the paper. And now everyone writes, what the results are. Anyway, next slide, please. There's no restriction on eating eggs, meats, fats, including saturated fats. Someone says, yes, healthy fats. Yeah, that means it's just a natural fat. Even saturated fats? Yes. Saturated fats make your good cholesterol go up. So that's even the response of, well, but if I eat more saturated fat, my cholesterol will go up. Yes, the good one. Oh wait, that's supposed to be funny.
It's just fact.
The research on that's only been out, let's say 8 years. That's Jeff Volek. Again, he had to do a paper that in the title says eating more eggs raises your HDL. Because it's like, people don't like to read other people's papers. And yes, those things down the left, lower left, I've never had one growing up in Wisconsin. They're comfort food for many of the Durham natives where I live. Those pork rinds or meat skins or, in fact, a lot of soul food that is fine as long as you keep the carbs really low. And those are eggs in the middle and butter there. Next slide, please. It's healthy, filling. Low carb doesn't mean no carb. So you can also always say, well, that's a no carb diet. No, you get carbs in the vegetables. No one ever really wants to hear the other, well, but it's not many vegetables. But you are getting carbs, actually. And there are forbidden carbs. And, there's more in common between all of the popular diets today than there are the differences between these diets. None of the popular diets that are sound would have you drink sugar-sweetened beverages, right? Or have you have packaged Cheetos, Doritos, things like that. So actually there's it's called a false choice, where some diet proponents will say, if you don't eat our way, then it's bad. It's our way or no. I think there are lots of ways to go about it. And if there was one public health measure in North Carolina, maybe even in Georgia, that would be helpful, is to get rid of sweet tea. Tea. Because it's all sweet tea. You don't want to drink sugar. Next slide. So rule number one, if you're teaching this in general, not everyone wants to go keto, then first, just eliminate the sugar. But not everyone knows that juice has a lot of sugar in it, that some ketchups have a lot of sugar. A lot of people don't know that fruit has sugar in it. It's fascinating to, wait, how many of you receive nutritional training? Very few, right? Even doctors, so it makes sense that we don't really understand this. So teaching this is really important, understanding. So some doctors teach based on teaspoons of sugar in the different foods. That's one way to do it. The teaching that I do will be based on the grams of carbohydrates, so you don't have to make a conversion to teaspoons. Next slide. Of course, grains, pastas, starches get digested to sugar. The battery acid in your stomach will digest these things into sugar. Just check your blood sugar an hour after eating any food to see how it affects you. I wonder, is anyone using a CGM, continuous glucose monitor yet? Yeah, I don't really recommend them if you don't have diabetes, although a lot of patients want to know. I think it's a little too out there. You don't have to know that detail, but a lot of people want to know. But for diabetes, it's been a game changer. You can know your blood sugar level all day long. And so someone came to me recently, I didn't know that my blood sugar was going up after the meal until I had that continuous glucose monitor on. Well, but if you have diabetes and you know that bread raises your blood, well, but it really didn't hit me until I saw it on my own. I point here because you can put it on your shoulder. And so if you really don't know, and if you're the kind of person who needs to see it in yourself, then you might consider something like a continuous glucose monitor. Because these foods will raise your blood sugar just as fast as drinking Coca-Cola or Pepsi or sugar-sweetened beverage. Next slide, please. Fruits and nuts are nature's candy is a way to say you want to limit them every now and then, that sort of thing. And nuts are what's known as a trigger food for most people. How many of you have had the occasion where you'll have a tub of nuts and before you know it, they're gone, right? So, yeah, for a lot of people it's a trigger food, so stay away from there at first. Next slide. What about food quality? Well, this is, it was explained to me that what we're seeing today is a merging of the paleo food quality with the ketogenic diet for epilepsy, with the ad-lib low-carb diet for diabetes and obesity treatment, all put in the same sort of teaching fire hose from the internet. And it's not easy to separate all of that. But the food quality idea, it's great if you can. It's bringing in the idea of sustainability and maybe you can have less omega-6 fatty acids in your diet. I'm still not convinced that everyone needs to do this. And in my world, if you eat the best food, the highest quality that you can afford and have access to, it's probably going to work just fine. Now, if you were on a bully pulpit and said, well, we want to save the earth and make sure you get local eating and all that, great. I mean, that's another issue. But for an individual's health, it's okay if you occasionally, or in some of my patients all the time, eat at a fast food place. Just stay away from the carbs. So this has been a big distraction for a lot of people, and even in the news this week, an observational study, meaning it's not a causal study, suggests a link between the artificially sweetened beverages and stroke and heart disease. I'm not convinced. I mean, these are not strong studies. Next slide, please. And I'll get into more details of how to do this in the class. I hope you can stay for that. We don't talk about exercise at first. Most people come to me with a body mass index of 38, have no energy to exercise, or may even feel like I'm not even going to try to lose weight because I know I have to exercise. Nope, you can lose weight just by changing the food. And then, it's funny, nobody wants to just watch me on YouTube talking about a patient anymore. They want to see the patient. So I'm starting to do videos, and one of the first ones I did was with Tanya, who's in a wheelchair, and she's paralyzed. She can't exercise. And so she said, anyway, you don't have to exercise to lose weight. Now, being active is great for other reasons, but don't worry about that at first. Next slide, please. And then you don't have to track things if you're not hungry. Next slide, although you can. Do I have to eat keto forever? No, but you can. Next slide. We've known about this for a long time. In fact, this is a book from 100 years ago. The treatment of diabetes was a 10-gram per day carbohydrate diet. I'll give you 20. Next slide. And I'm just going to fast forward, running out of time here. And next slide. Next slide. It's not just obesity and diabetes, and these other studies are being done now, which is fantastic, on even just people feel better as a way of staying on this approach. Next slide. This is a condition that was thought to be untreatable, lymphedema. Actually, it can get better with a keto diet. Next slide. And the new data, new science, looking at Alzheimer's and cancer is really, really interesting and exciting because there aren't many other options there. Next slide. You may have to have some reprogramming. This is a wand from Men in Black. It erases the memory of any nutritional knowledge that you've been given before. Today, the most common missteps are using net carbs instead of total carbs. Don't think, and if net carbs works for you, great. But don't think that, well, then keto didn't work. Go from net carbs to total carbs. What seems like a small change there can actually be a big change. Letting an app or a program tell you how much protein you eat. And someone came into me and said, well, I know I'm not eating enough protein. So how do you know? Well, because my app tells me I need more protein. Well, wait a second. What did your body tell you? Right? So learn to listen to your own body signals. And then eating or drinking too much fat is a common misstep that I see today. Next slide. How do you get started? If you have a medical problem, see someone who knows about this. I'm quite concerned that people will not understand the power of changing the food, and the medications can become too strong. I have to reduce insulin on the first day someone starts this diet, or a low blood sugar will happen. The first day you have to change medications. So if you're doing it on your own, just last week I had 2 people who brought themselves off 100, 150 units of insulin because the waiting list was so long, the time to wait to come in to see me. They started, and they could get on a motorcycle, and they figured out how to ride it without any problem, but not everyone is able. That's the metaphor for not everyone knows how to reduce their insulin, and when there's a low blood sugar, you don't just keep taking that insulin, you lower it. In fact, this one person read one of the books we wrote and saw an example of it and just said, okay, I'll do it. So it's like reading a manual on how to ride a motorcycle and then hopping on one. You know, some people can do that, but not everyone can. And then, next slide, please. The only company where you can actually invest and change the world toward a keto medicine future is actually Heal Clinics. And we started a campaign to really jumpstart and relaunch the company last November. And we started with $37,000. There were 39 investors. This is what's called an online public offering, where you can, with as little as $480, actually own stock in a company. So this is one of my companies, and the idea is to teach people at a distance with the method that I'll tell you later today, and then provide the clinical care if someone's on medication so that they can safely come off the medication. So healclinics.com/offering. I even put my investment on my credit card. It's that simple. So that's supposed to be fun. Shocked. But no, this is actually, it's not giving away money in a Kickstarter. This is actually owning stock in the company. There's no other place you can do that. So, next slide. This is the most recent. We're at $620,000. Now, those of you in big business who say, oh, you know, it's a good start. Yeah, we want $1 million to make sure we're on a solid footing. And Georgia is on the radar screen. We have clinics open in North Carolina and Virginia. We actually have real data, real people with clinics opening. And I hope if you want to get involved in another special way, most investors say, I didn't want anyone else to have to wait so long or try to have to find their own, you know, it took me a year to find this. This provides it, you know, right now. So thank you. Next slide. Appreciate it. Thank you.